All right, Psalm 49. Psalm 49 is a great psalm about people who are mistreated by other people, especially people who feel like they're mistreated by powerful, wealthy people. And it's talking about how that all of us really are going to die, and that all of us are going to give our wealth up, and we can't take our wealth with us. And so it's really about how we look at other people around us, and how other people around us who mistreat us sometimes cause us not to trust in the Lord. We get jealous, we get resentful, we blame our troubles on other people, like people that have more than we do. So this is an interesting psalm because it was probably done as a solo. One of the interesting things about the Psalms, if you read the book of Psalms and look at the structure of the Psalms, different psalms were sung in a different way. A lot of psalms have a part of the psalm that is a chorus. And this psalm does. If you'll look, I believe it's verse 12 and verse 20. See if you can look up verse 12 and verse 20 in this psalm. Are those identical? Those two verses, verse 12 and verse 20? Okay. That is the chorus of this psalm. And what would be done is that the singer, the soloist, would sing, tell the story, like a storyline that he's telling. And at the chorus, all the other Levites would come in and they would sing that chorus together. So the singer would sing the story, and then the Levites would come in and they would all join in that one verse that's identical. You see that in a number of psalms. A lot of the psalms, they have this idea. So what you have, if you can imagine the Levites in the temple, and you know that God commanded in the temple, along with the animal sacrifices, 2 Chronicles 29, 25 and following, he commanded that they use harps and lyres as they sang the songs in the temple. And the temple wasn't church. The temple was out in a courtyard with a big altar, and people were killing sheep and goats and bulls, and blood was being poured over everything. And the Levites would play the harps and the lyres, and the priests would blow the trumpets over the sacrifices, and they would sing these songs. And sometimes on certain occasions there were certain messages that were gotten across by these psalms, and this one is a message to people about being mistreated by those who are more powerful. So as he begins this, he says, hear this. See? Listen to me. And then notice in the next line, he says, give ear. Same idea. Who's supposed to be listening here? Well, he says, all the people, you listen. All the inhabitants of the world, you listen. And notice how he delineates these people. Both low and high, rich and poor together. All of you, the rich and the poor, however you look at yourselves, I want you to listen to me right now as I sing this song to you. Why should we listen to this song? Because he says, my mouth shall speak wisdom. And it says, the meditation of my heart shall be understanding. So there's going to be some wisdom. There's going to be some understanding. There's going to be some advice given in this psalm that's going to benefit all of you if you'll just listen to what's being sung. Now, you're aware that in our singing, some of our songs, like a lot of the songs we sung this morning, are worship songs. They're directed upward to God. But many of our songs are edification songs. They are directed to each other. They're not worship, they're edification. So we're encouraging each other. This particular psalm is an edification psalm. It's designed for people to listen and to the people to sing to people. Are you with me? So some songs are sung by people to other people to give a message. Other songs are sung directly to God. This one is one that's sung by people to other people to give us some wisdom. So the writer here, the psalmist says, I will incline my ear to a proverb. JV knows that proverbs are wisdom literature, see? and they give advice. And so the proverb, the wisdom, and he says, I will solve my riddle to the music of the lyre. So this is a Levite, a Levitical singer, and he's got a lyre, a stringed instrument, and he's going to tell this story. He's going to give this advice in the form of like a ballad. He's going to sing about this to the people, and the people are going to listen. He's inviting us to listen to this song. All right. Now, the context of this would be people maybe who are bringing their offerings, and maybe they're resentful of rich people that have mistreated them, that might be bringing offerings, and their attitudes are not right about their brothers or about other people. This may be some of the context of this song. All right, so the song continues in verse 5, and he says, why should I fear? See, this is the substance of it. Now, evidently, the singer is representing people who are afraid of rich and powerful people who sometimes mistreat them. And if you drop down here to verse 8, you have the little word for. And these are connected here. Why should I fear? For, he's going to give the reason down here a little bit later why I should not fear. But notice who or what he's afraid of in this particular psalm. Times of trouble, the iniquity of those who cheat me surrounds me. He's talking about powerful or wealthy people who cheat or who mistreat. And notice those who trust in their wealth. Notice this group right here, those, and this group right here, those. That's the people he's fearful of. That's the people he's worried about. Those people that would abuse their wealth. And this same group of people, they boast in the abundance of their riches. So I'm afraid of these people who exploit me, they cheat me, they boast in their wealth, and I'm struggling, and they abuse their power by taking advantage of me. Why should I fear, though, he says. And the reason here is that no man, even if he is rich and powerful, can ransom another or give to God the price of his life. For the ransom of their life is costly and can never suffice, that he should live on forever and never see the pit. Here's his point. His point is nobody can pay the price to God so he won't die. And see, by the way, Ray, you did a wonderful job on our prayer this morning. But all of us, everyone in this room, every single one of us, death day, we're all the same. Whatever you've got in your 401k, you can't take it. Can't take it with you. All your boasts and brags and all your I'm better than everybody else, it all ends when we die. Because, church, it's appointed unto a man once to die, and then what? After this comes the judgment. And each one of us, rich, poor, high, low, we will all stand and give an account before the Lord our God. So down here at the bottom, see what he's really saying if you boil this down. Why should I be afraid of these people? Because they're all going to die just like me, and we're all going to stand before the throne of God. So down here, he has another for. See, this connects here. He sees that even the wise die. The fool and the stupid alike must perish. I guess I got to die just like everybody else then, okay? And leave their wealth to others. Everybody's going to get whatever we've got. It's not that important anyway, all right? So why should I fear when God's going to treat us all the same in the end, all right? Now let's keep on going. Now, before we go to this other one, do you see up here in verse 5 where it says, those who cheat me, those who trust in their wealth, those that boast about the abundance of their riches? There's a group of people we're talking about. So when we come over here to this passage in verse 11, that group of people that we mentioned before, see, those who trust in their riches, that's still the group of people that he's talking about here. See, those who trust in their wealth. And he talks about they and them, down here. Their shepherd down here. See, their form. This is the same group of people, those who trust in their wealth, those who cheat me. This is the same group. So you want to follow those all down through the passage, Ryan. You see what I'm talking about here? Okay, that's what we're talking about. All right. So notice he said in the previous verses, they're all going to die. Their graves. See? Their dwelling places. See, they're going to go to the grave. They're going to live in the grave. We are too. Even though they named lands after themselves and they had big ranches maybe with their name on it or something, they're going to be in the ground just like everybody else. People are going to stand around at their funeral just like everybody else. Then in verse 12, now you have to picture this. Verse 12 and verse 20 are the same. As the psalmist is playing his lyre and telling this story, at verse 12, as he's playing, all the Levites chime in this huge, great voice, and they say, "Man in his pomp will not remain. He is like the beasts that perish." That big chorus comes up to remind the audience of the truth of this, see? All of our excellence, all of our splendor, all of our display of wealth, all of our display of power, poof, gone, just like that. It's going up in smoke. It's going up at the end. We can't take it with us. Then he says, "This is the path of those who have foolish confidence." And what did he tell us earlier in the psalm that these people trust in? Well, they trust in their wealth. They trust in their riches. And so if you'll go back up, like connect right here, see, their graves are going to be their dwelling place. They're going to be their habitations. This is the path of those who have foolish confidence. See, their confidence in their riches, it should be in the Lord, shouldn't it? Anybody in here besides me, I'm just going to confess my sins in front of you, I guess. I don't have very much, but I've worked my whole life to put aside a little bit, so hopefully I can live when I stop being able to make any kind of an income, at least somewhat. I'm worried about what's going to happen to that. Am I all by myself? Yeah. But that's not where my confidence is, because lately I've been praying, "Lord, I know what I want to happen in the upcoming days. And I'm asking you, Lord, for that. But I've been praying, Lord, I know that you know better. I know that you can see the whole picture. I know that you can see the whole forest. I know that you know what's best for the salvation of souls. And I'm not sure what that is. So, Lord, help me to be humble enough and help me to be Christian enough that no matter what the outcome is, I'm just going to keep trusting you and keep trying to be a Christian and keep trying to let my light shine no matter what the circumstance is. Because you said to me, Lord, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and what? All these things will be added unto you. And he's telling me, Brother Dan, if you really believe that, then put your money where your mouth is and trust me no matter what happens. See? And that's what we have to do, I believe. So we look at the people who seem to be successful, and they may be evil people and they're not living right, yet they seem to be successful. But we have to realize that their confidence is foolish. And even though their confidence is foolish, people approve of their boasts. See? Notice he says, like sheep, they are appointed for Sheol. Sheol is a hole in the ground. Sheol is the grave. See? Death shall be their shepherd. See? See, back up here to verse 11. Their graves are their homes forever, their dwelling places through all generations. And there's a great little section here. It says, and the upright will rule over them in the morning. See, we will be vindicated on the last day. Those people that may not have been the most powerful, those people that didn't try to abuse other people, those people that were kind and considerate, those people that gave away wealth when others needed it, those people that have tried to do right, in the great day will be vindicated. There'll be glory for us. And that's when we will have our vindication for our entire life and our entire trust, when we hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant, enter into the joys of your Lord. But not so this other group of people who trust in their riches. It says, their form shall be consumed in Sheol, with no place to dwell. But notice the statement of faith in verse 15, which is sort of like this one up here. He says, but God will ransom my soul from the power of Sheol, for he will receive me. When you look around at people that prosper and they're ugly, and when you look around at the people that seem to do well, but they're unkind and they're inconsiderate and they're not good people and they're not godly people, and you get jealous, do you stop and remind yourself that God will ransom your soul? That you are a child of God? That you will spend eternity with him? That you will help other people go to heaven? That your life will mean something that theirs never will, no matter how much they build, no matter how much they accumulate? See? This is where our confidence must be. If you go all the way back to the first of the psalm, you know, he says, maybe back in verse 5, he says, why should I be afraid of all this? Because in the end, I'm going to be the one that is victorious. All right, let's go down to the last section. Now notice here in verse 16 that he comes back to the question of verse 5. In verse 5 he says, why should I be afraid? Do you see that? If you go back up to verse 5 in your Bible. Why should I be afraid? Is that the right verse? Verse 5? Why should I be afraid? Here the singer says, don't be afraid. When should I not be afraid? When a man becomes rich, when the glory of his house increases. See, why should I not be afraid? Go through this psalm and circle those little fours, because that tells you why. For when he dies, he will carry nothing away. His glory will not go down after him. See? Wow. We won't carry anything away. 1 Timothy 6, what is it, about verse 6 or so? Godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into this world, neither shall we take anything out of it. See? That's true. We didn't bring anything in. We're not going to take anything out. We will not have any stuff to take with us. By the way, I've got a garage full of stuff. It's my parents' stuff. It's just sitting there. It's my kids' stuff. It's just sitting there. Kenny, you got some of that stuff? I got stuff that's just stuff. Look, people, if I croak, my kids just got to clean out all that junk. What did you have in the first place? Well, it's my father's and my mother's junk. It's just junk. You know, stuff. Stuff means nothing. Stuff means absolutely nothing. It's just stuff. So he says here, for though while he lives he counts himself blessed, and though you get praise when you do well for yourself, again, he repeats, his soul will go to the generation of his fathers who will never again see light. Notice how that this and this are the same. And all the way through this psalm, the same message is given over and over and over again. And that message is, we're going to die. Now, why would you sing this? Why would you sing this when people are bringing their sacrifices? Why would this Levite, inspired by God to write this psalm, why would he sing this message to people? Because it's wisdom. It's understanding. Life is not about riches. Life is not about one person dominating over another. It's about trusting in the Lord. As somebody brought up last week, my mom's favorite scripture, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. See, let's go back here just a little bit. You'll notice in verse 11 and verse 13 how it repeats over and over again that we're all destined for the grave, see? And you'll notice back up here in verse 7 and 8, nobody can pay a price so that they won't die. Everybody's going to die. And down here, we're all going to perish in verse 10 and leave our wealth to others. So that same message is throughout this psalm. And remember in verse 12, all the Levites chime in all of a sudden. Now, I don't know how many, but if you read Chronicles, there was a huge chorus of these Levites. I heard the Russian boys' choir one time, Russian men's choir, and I never heard such a powerful, beautiful sound coming out of anybody. But I can imagine these Levites in force shouting, "Man in his pomp will not remain. He is like a beast that perishes." And so the singer is singing this song, and the people are offering their sacrifices. And the final verse in verse 20, all these Levites chime in again. Man in his pomp is yet without understanding, is like the beasts that perish. The glory of man is nothing. The glory of man is nothing. God gives us what he gives us to use in his cause and to use to do good and to use to support our family. And that's why he gives it to us. And it's fleeting. Remember the parable of the talents? That's money in that, by the way, talents. And that's possessions. He gave one 5, he gave one 2, and he gave one 1. And the master, who is God, expected those servants to take what they have and use it in doing the will of God when it was all done. Anything else is just dust in the wind, and it will perish. I don't know about you, but I need to hear the message of this psalm periodically. I need to hear God tell me in the inspired words of this psalm what's important and what's not important. And what's not important is wealth. Wealth is just something God loans us to use. What's important is our relationship with God. Isn't that the same thing Jesus said when he said, "Lay not up treasures for yourselves upon the earth where moss and rust corrupt and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust corrupt nor thieves break through and steal. For where a man's treasure is," finish it for me, "there shall his heart be also." Okay? Where's your heart? This psalm is trying to tell us to put our heart in the right place with the Lord and with our influence we can have on all other people through the Lord. Great psalm. Now, let's end where we began here. Let's think about our songs for a minute. Again, let me repeat that some of our songs are worship songs, like many of these we sung this morning. Those are worship. Worship goes this way, up, okay? But the other purpose of our being together is edification. That means to encourage one another, speaking to one another. So this psalm is a one another psalm. Love one another. That's a horizontal song. Yield not to temptation. That's a horizontal song. There's all kinds of different songs we sing that are designed to encourage each other and to give each other wisdom. Those are good. We need to do that, see? So we worship, we encourage one another. Many times the messages of encouragement songs, they're biblical messages which we sing, which enforce them in our hearts. Angry words, oh, let them never from the tongue unbridled slip. You know, that's a let's talk to each other song. We're not telling God that. We're telling that to each other. See? So this psalm is a representative of that type of song. And there are many other psalms that are representative of worship songs. Okay? Both of those functions are legitimate functions of our singing in the assembly. Okay, I'm done, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes and 44 seconds back. Y'all have a great time, and we'll see you. Hope you have a good week. Be nice to people and kind to people.